But what I'm noticing is the positivity coming out of the mainstream media,
which is
I
the
don't understand.
Now it's like, it seems like the news headlines are reasonably positive. It makes no sense.
I'm probably more negative about the market than I've ever been, just because I see the potential for, if we don't get interest rates down, I do think you're going to start to see some really big issues, right? So we're going to now crest, 7% in 2 years from now. If we're still there, there's going to be real problems. Welcome to the Tom Storey Show with Steve Karrasch and Tom Storey, where we discuss everything real estate or whatever else is on our minds.
Welcome back, everybody, to that.
Oh, your first ever screw up. We're leaving that in. Welcome back to another episode of the Tom Storey Show.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Tom Storey Show. I appreciate you being here and letting me do that a second time to get the words out of my mouth. Hope you're having a great day. This is going to be a Steve and Tom catch-up episode, which I'm actually super excited for because we got a heck of a lot of things to talk about. If you're watching us on YouTube and you have not already, and you enjoy these episodes, make sure to leave us a like. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the growing community. As this episode comes out, we should be just kind of pushed over 3,000 subscribers, which is really cool. Like, what are we now? We're a year and a half into this. Are we a bit more than that, Steve?
Yeah, about that. I want to say we're 75-ish episodes.
75 episodes. What should we do
Somewhere
for 100? We'll get Trudeau on
first
for
of
number
all,
100.
Count and find out which number 100 is, because I know we're ish. I know we're within about 4 or 5. I just don't know because there's all the bonuses and different things like that. But
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if there's anything. There's nothing special about our podcast, so we probably shouldn't say anything about it. However, we do have some holiday episodes coming up, and I'm happy with holiday episodes. Did something just buzz?
It did, but it was not mine. That was from you.
Dude, people do not like our stuff in the I'll leave it.
Hopefully the buzzing in the comments? Oh, the buzzing? Yeah.
Angry.
No, but normally what it is like a guest has the ding on their computer, and we're not going to stop the episode and tell them to turn it off, right? So
we're not going to do that. Also, if you have notifications on your computer from your phone, like text messages, please don't. Just please stop. Turn off your notifications.
Just put on Do Not Disturb. That's what I do. My phone stays on for all these. So is my notifications on my computer, but it just goes to Do Not Disturb for the hour, right?
Well, I think what vibrated, like, so people that don't, well, no, why would anybody know? I shoot these are all my iPhone, but not my current iPhone. They're all iPhone video. So something just went off on that iPhone. I don't know what it is. It's on airplane mode, so I don't know how that happened, but.
Whenever people ask me for video stuff, they're like, what type of expensive camera do I need? I'm like, well, Steve built his channel on like an iPhone 4, so I think you're pretty much good to go.
It was I think I started with my iPhone 8, but let's not get crazy.
Okay. All right. Anyways, longest intro of all time. Appreciate everyone being here. If you're listening on the audio platforms, make sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Steve, I've got a few things I want to bring up right off the bat.
So many things. We couldn't even book. We had a guest, but I was like, no, Tom, no guest. There are so many things I want to give my opinion on. Just the one that I see in our notes right now, I could go on for literally an hour to explain it. I probably won't, but where do you want to start?
I want to start actually with the overall vibe on real estate in Canada right now. We are people that talk to buyers and sellers and people that lease property on a daily basis. But we also have a unique perspective because we also see a lot of the online chatter because we put out content about what's happening in the market. And most of all, I understand why it's such a sensitive topic is because housing's unaffordable. Like it just is what it is, and people are mad about it. But it seems like more recently, the negativity on just everything going on surrounding Canadian real estate has kind of leveled up. And not that it's got to like a toxic point, like most of it's still good fun or a little bit of prying, but some people are like mad and they're taking their anger out on the people that are reporting the news, us, not just what's happening. Like, I wish I had that much control. You're giving us a lot of credit here. Are you sensing that, or am I in my own little world here?
I think because we're in the negativity of the YouTube world, for sure. We're seeing the comments have gone super negative, and even so far as being this is how I know they're idiots making those comments, because they're going like public attacks on, or not public, they're attacking and name calling the like guests on our show and stuff. So it's like you're obviously just bottom feeder losers, right? Like there's just no need for that. If you disagree, that's one thing, but so negativity there for sure. I'm sure most of those people are not probably going to be our audience long term anyway, because we're trying to be fairly positive guys. But what I'm noticing is the positivity coming out of the mainstream media,
which is
I don't understand.
Opposite. It makes no sense. Normally, for the last long time, even when the market was trending upwards and everyone was happy-go-lucky if you owned real estate, the news headlines would try to terrify you. Now it's like, it seems like the news headlines are reasonably positive, but then the online community's gone super negative. What's going on there?
So it's like I am right now for the next, let's call it 18 to 36 months. I'm probably more negative about the market than I've ever been, just because I see the potential for, if we don't get interest rates down by peak 2022 pricing renewals, so late 25, 26, 27, if we don't get interest rates back down to below, like actual paying interest rates down to below stress test levels, I do think you're going to start to see some really big issues, right? So we're going to now crest 7% probably in 5-year fixed rates, or 3-year fixed rates anyway, pretty quick. And if we get there, and then in 2 years from now, if we're still there, there's going to be real problems, real problems. And so I'm a little bit more negative than I ever have been. And now I'm just like reading these news articles, and it's like, CMHC comes out and says,
what was the
headline?
You want to start there?
No, let's try. No, the other one I did on my channel. Let me read it. I've got it here somewhere. Okay. No, I don't have it here somewhere. Toronto and Vancouver no longer in bubble risk territory.
That is the yearly gift to the news headlines from UBS. It's the report they put out every single year. And it's typically always, like, you can always count at this time of year, there's going to be several news headlines that week of Toronto and Vancouver top 5 or top 10 in the world in housing bubble, right? What's interesting now, and this is where it gets kind of funny, is that the actual quote said, "This year's report indicates that these cities," meaning Toronto and Vancouver, "are no longer in bubble risk category. Instead, they are just considered overvalued." So it's like, was that any better? They're not technically a bubble anymore. You just think it's overvalued.
It's just not too far overvalued, I guess. I don't know. Like, I guess the only way that can really be, and let's be clear, Tom and I, both too stupid to understand whatever the stats are that reported on this affordability or not affordability or price wise or whatever. But I'm assuming that they're saying, because prices came down in my market 35% in detached last year and then went back up, they're probably still reporting on slightly old data now because we've gone back up.
Yeah.
Vancouver, I'm doing more deals in the Vancouver board this year than I think I ever have before. It's humming along nicely. You're not seeing the price corrections, but then you're starting to see like wages increase, which I'm blown away by how much people are getting for wage increases. And then as inflation goes crazy, I guess the actual value, if the value of homes doesn't continue to rise, it does come back into line, because you've got inflation, wage increases, all these other things that are actually kind of devaluing the real estate, even though the price of it is very, very high. So I guess, I don't know. I feel like there's more threats right now against bringing prices down. And then we get this stupid report.
It's, they said that according to the index, there's only 2 places still remain in housing bubble risk territory, Zurich and Tokyo. What? You see what's going on my screen right now?
I do see what's going on, and you need to figure that out. I don't know what's going. That happened on the live stream too, and you really need to figure that out. Somebody has like control, I think, of your.
No, there's no way. If they had control, they'd be doing sillier stuff than that. It's like, if anyone didn't see that on YouTube, like balloons just showed up behind me.
Tom just released a balloon parade to celebrate the end of the bubble. here in
that's actually pretty good. It showed a bunch of balloons. That's actually perfect timing.
Did they all pop when they hit your ceiling or no?
No, they just went all the way up. So we're still in bubble territory in Zurich and Tokyo. Maybe it's things that I'm saying. I don't know. Maybe the streaming software has got a mind of its own. But
I don't know.
What I wanted to kind of add on to that report is Foch tweeted out a graph from that report, and it showed like different places, different cities, and how many years it would take you to pay off a rental property based on the rent that you're getting. And Toronto was like middle of that graph. It was like 20 years or something, where some of these other places, I'm guessing it was Tokyo. I'd have to look back at it. Some of these places were like 65, 70 years because the cost of the property is so high, but the rent is not even close. Like, I'm not sure what the real cap rates would be in those countries. They'd be like very, very low.
We should find some one day to talk about what actually happened in Japan. You always see that in the comments. You know what happened in Japan in 1989?
I know.
And the prices have never recovered. Actually, you know what? I have no idea. I have no idea what happened in Japan. Neither do you. You read an article somewhere. So we should probably figure out what actually happened. If you know a Japanese realtor that wants to come on the show, please let us know, because we would love to find out what actually happened in Japan, because all of us are just using talking points from the interwebs.
100%. And just to kind of go off of that, when we're talking about, okay, where the market's at right now, and we've stated publicly so many times that like a kind of calm, not going up in prices, not going down in prices market would be fairly wonderful. We don't really get that in our markets. We have extremes on either direction, and doesn't really chug along nicely. And a lot of the guests that we've had from other markets, like Natalie McGuire from Ottawa, pre-pandemic, Andrew Stevens from Halifax, their markets kind of were that. They were 2 to 3% appreciation a year, reasonable, nice. Now the pandemic kind of screwed up everything, right? But the reason I bring this up is because we had talked about in a previous episode how I'm listing a lot of condos now, and if they bought them prior, or I guess after 2020, they haven't made any money. And it's been interesting because I put out some short form videos on that and talked about it on my Instagram account. And there some of the response that we got, and I did a full video on it, like breaking down that graph I put together. And it was crazy how people were like, yeah, like this is just the beginning and whatever. And maybe they're right. But what's so bad about buying an asset that doesn't go up or doesn't go down? Are we just so skewed that we think that Canadian real estate must go up or it's a failure? Like if it just hovers for a few years or drops off a little bit and then goes up again, does that mean it's a bad investment?
Well, if your sole investment purpose, like
if you're a speculator,
if your sole idea is that this is only going to go up in value until I need to sell it, then yeah, that's ridiculousness. So when I bought my condo at 100% financing in 2021, my thought was,
I'm going to get a t-shirt made for the show that says 100% financing, because I think you've told me and the viewers that probably 25 times now.
Yeah, because it was friggin' awesome, and I'm super intelligent to do that. Still cash flowing, by the way. So if I'm closer to break even. So if my goal was, I remember having a conversation with you, and I think I had the same conversation with Darren, about buying, because he had actually just recently sold in the same complex. And I said, I think in 10 years, this thing's going to be worth $650. Little did I know, within 12 months, it was worth $650. Right now, it's probably $620. So it's come down $475
in 2020.
So that was like my plan in 2021. By within a year, it had gone up to like probably 660, 670 at some point. And then now it's come back. But my plan is still that thing needs to be worth $650 in another 7 years from now.
Well, for the next 3 years, who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah. Might just stay where it is or drop off a little bit, right?
I personally, I think it's going to drop off. And am I going to sell it? No.
Right.
It's covering itself. It's at least covering itself until the 1.89 5-year fixed, by the way, 5-year fixed, not variable, is gone. So it's in good shape, and I'm slowly increasing rent. It's way below market right now, but it's doing good, providing a nice, good, safe, clean home for someone to live in. And I mean, it's doing the job it should be doing.
what if you had purchased that condo and the market went the opposite direction? Or like let's say you bought that condo and it was in the peak and then things dropped off, right? And so let's say you paid $650 at the peak of the market, right? And now it's worth, just for conversation, $585. Because that seems to be the pushback when Steve says, just buy property and hold it. They're like, well, yeah, but I'm not buying when it's dropping, Steve. It could still drop more. And then what? Like, that's not good advice. So let's flip it, because you had a good experience, right? Relative to market conditions. What if it was the opposite? Would you have the same mindset?
I think before that, you got to get to the mindset of, remember, when the market is good, all you people that buy real estate, because the market is good and you're speculating, or because the market is good and you're buying an investment property, remember that market is not good for you. It's good for the person you're giving your money to.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where you really got to go to, right? Like, again, this December, these buys this December
probably going to look
have
decent.
a very good chance of looking pretty good 2-3 years down the road.
Yep.
So, but let's say, for instance, I am in negative right now. If I am in negative right now, yeah, I mean, you're negative right now. Okay, I will tell you this. I am a dummy when it comes to my stock portfolio, because my stock portfolio is easily worth, if I had to check right now, 13% less than my book value and market value difference, right? So what I've paid in versus what the market's currently at. So do I panic sell? I still have not yet learned how to sell a stock. I'm just buying more stocks. I'm just buying more funds, right? That's the plan. And it sucks, because last week, I want to say I dumped in a bunch of dough into an index fund, and that index fund went down $4 per share, or whatever you want to call it, of the index fund within 24 hours. So what did I do? Sell it all? No. I plan to buy more because it's cheaper later. So that's my look on it. I understand the expense right now is the part I can't get my brain around. The expense is like, I don't know how a lot of people are doing it, but they do seem to be doing it.
With the interest rates?
Yeah.
Well, I've had a lot more calls recently from people that are saying, all right, what's my condo worth for sale and what's my condo worth to rent, right? They want to know both numbers. And the rental number doesn't anywhere cover what their payment is, right? Yeah. Most of these people aren't variables. So let's just be clear about that, right? The fixed people aren't calling me, right? And then they go, okay, well, what can I get to sell it? And I've had probably 5 of these conversations in the last month with people that have called me from YouTube. And I'll tell them what they can get to sell it. And they go, well, I paid about that, or I paid more than that not that long ago. And, maybe I'll just wait. I'm like, okay. So they're like, so how long would it take to get back to the price that I paid? And usually it's not a crazy drop off. It's like, we're talking 25, 50 grand, depending on the price point. I'm like, okay, well, like, let's run the scenario here on what would it take for prices to go up. And it's let's push immigration aside for one moment, right? Because let's just look at the other two. Options available, inventory, and then interest rates. Okay. So it would take one of two things to happen. If the rates are still high, but there's no inventory, you'll still see pressure on prices because there's enough people that can, not everybody, but that's what we saw at the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. There's inventory now, at least for these condos. Or the rates have to come down. Either the 5-year bond yield has to come down for the fixed rates, or Bank of Canada has to start doing these little 25-point cuts. But when's that going to happen? I don't know.
So I just saw,
24?
Speaking of positive reports, I saw a report just this morning while I was doing my research, if you want to call it that, before our episodes. And there was a report that said Canada's economy expected to pick up next year. So I read it.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Why do you think they think the economy is going to pick up next year? This episode is brought to you by Realty Ninja. Real estate agents, listen up. Realty Ninja has created over 9,000 Canadian real estate websites, and they are no joke. I've been using Realty Ninja in my business since they were a small little startup in North Vancouver. Tiny, dusty little office with old leather couch and all. But look at the ninjas now. Realty Ninja is the go-to platform for real estate agents in Canada. Websites are no longer a nice to have. They are a must. Your clients expect you to feature their listings in the best light possible. They expect you to go with Realty Ninja. The backbone of my real estate business is my website. I wouldn't pick any other company to host my website other than Realty Ninja. Don't believe me? Go to my website. Check it out right now. Go to krproperties.ca and you will see that it's powered by Realty Ninja and has been for over a decade. They have all of the features I need to grow my business year after year, including lead capture, mobile-friendly design, built-in SEO, and so much more. The best part of Realty Ninja is it's totally free to sign up, no credit card is required, and you only pay when you are ready to launch your new Realty Ninja website. And no, that's not it. Sign up today at realtyninja.com/Tom, and you will receive 20%, yes, 20% off of your entire first year when using Realty Ninja to host your real estate website. Their templates are super easy to work with yourself, or you can have the ninjas design something for you like I did. Not only is Realty Ninja the best product on the market, but it's also affordable. Listeners of this show know that I am as cheap as they come, and I've been using Realty Ninja for well over a decade now. Start your free trial today, and when you launch, save 20% using our link in the description below. And let Realty Ninja help you take your real estate business to the next level. And now, back to the podcast.
Is it immigration?
No. It's because
rate cuts?
Everyone is projecting Q2 rate cuts next year.
Everyone's projecting?
Everyone. All of the banks, all of these economic companies, all these people are
pricing it in?
They're pricing it in that rate cuts will start to happen by June of next year, which is possible,
I guess.
But I mean, you think your cuts are going to be a slash? They ain't going to be a slash unless everything breaks.
No, they're going to be little pinches. You know,
And when we did the live stream, you remember the probably the smartest comment I saw there. Do you think this whole India problem could be the Black Swan event? Because if people from India stop coming here, let's face it, in the West Coast anyway, I'm sure Toronto's probably the same. It's probably 50% of our immigration.
Okay.
Right? So it's like, man, if those folks stop coming here, is that going to stop fueling things for a while and have things turn back around the other way? So I don't know. There's all sorts of different things, but how can it be? Let's get into the other one. That CMHC says house prices are going to raise 89% by what year? In the next 6 years.
6 years.
How is this possible?
I mean, basically what they came out and said is that we are just not building at anywhere near the rate possible, which, you know, we've heard this before. This keeps being said. We all know this, you know, and it would based on immigration staying at where it is or potentially going slightly higher, right, over the next 6 years. And there again, this report is not thinking right now or the next 2 years. This is like a 5-year out report, right?
This is what I read. So I was
89% price increase for this is Canadian real estate prices across the board.
Mm-hmm. But so did you read the actual? Did you read the actual? This is why the media headlines, they title thumbnail stuff better than we. Well, their thumbnails suck, but their titles are better than ours, because that 89% when you read the article was from 2019 prices. So I read the article and they broke it down, and it was like best case scenario, worst case scenario. So like worst economic times possible, best economic times possible. 6 years from now, because the report was just updated in I think, well, it's actually late 22. I think the report was updated. So when I did the calculation on that, so it was, if the economy goes to crap, 67% increase in the greater Vancouver area. So I took my 2019 pricing of my home.
Sure.
I put it against, I did it in each scenario.
Sure.
So the worst case scenario was like, I think I put in 1.6 1.1 in 2019. So I would have to say somewhere around 1.6, 1.65, worst case scenario. That's where they had it. And this was before pandemic and before 1.15 million people came into the country in the last 12 years.
Right.
Or in the last 12 months.
Yep.
And then they did the other side. And I think the other side high end potential was like 2.1 million or something like that.
But for freehold properties specifically, right? If these numbers are from 2019 and they're saying, what was it, 89% growth?
We're basically
have we not
already
had like a
That's
ton of
because
that
this
growth
report
already?
This report was 2019.
It's a revised report.
It's a revised report from
Yeah,
2019, and the original report obviously didn't predict the future because they didn't check with all the conspiracy people that were planning this whole long, the world-changing events that have happened over the last little while, right? Because we all know that was planned. So,
what are you
no, wait,
doing?
that'll get me demonetized.
What are you? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay, the next 5 to 10 years. Okay, you're in a position that you are getting close to paying off the mortgage on your house, and the condo investment's doing really well. Sounds like your stock market stuff isn't exactly, going crazy, but whatever, you got money in there, right? Mm-hmm. If you looked at your net worth, where is it like 70% real estate holdings, 30% in the market? Like, how does that work on your end?
I would have to crunch the numbers.
Okay, so
I'd have to crunch the numbers. I assume mostly real estate.
Okay.
Like more than 60% real estate.
Yeah, it would be the same. It kind of makes sense for what we do, right?
Which is probably the same with most Canadians that have owned real estate for more than 10 years.
Yeah, based on the growth that they've seen in those assets. Okay, but for the next 10 years, what are you investing in? Are you just sticking with the plan you have now? When the house is paid off, are you going to buy another? Like, because earlier on in the episode, you said you think there's going to be opportunities. Probably there's going to be opportunities in the next 8 to 9 months across different markets in different ways, where if you buy now, you're going to look back in a few years and be like, holy crap, that looked pretty good. So are you going to take advantage of any of those?
I haven't given my financial planner money since about 2018.
That's why your stock portfolio is doing so well, eh?
Well, it was crazy to see actually what it did and how it rose and how it's basically back at like pre-pandy levels right now. But I haven't given him money because my plan since 2018 was deleverage. So long before this stuff ever happened, my plan was pay off the mortgage.
Okay, but what about when the mortgage is paid off? Then what?
Buy another property.
Okay, so you are going to do that.
My plan is to never again in my life not have a mortgage.
But if you think there's going to be opportunities coming up, right? I'm like pretending to be a commenter, calling you out on what you said. If you think there's going to be opportunities coming up, who cares if you got a little bit left on your mortgage? Why don't you just buy that property now?
Because of freedom, man. I want that crap figured out. I don't want to pay my own mortgage. I want somebody else to pay it. So what I mean is as soon as this one's paid off, then you think
a few more years on this one?
I'm hoping 2, maybe 3.
Okay. All right.
I'm hoping, fingers crossed, if we really keep cranking it out. But yeah, then the plan is the day I pay off my mortgage, I need to go buy another investment property and I need to put somebody in that who's going to pay that property down. I don't care if it grows in value. I just want it to break even and pay down my future wealth for 20 years from that. Right? Because let's face it, if we are thinking wisely here for our future generations, my kids are going to live off of the work I'm doing today. Right. And I wish my parents had that same mindset when they started doing it. Right. Like that's where the value is really or the wealth is going to come from. We are going to enter one of those old timey countries like Europe and in China and wherever else where people probably pass down their real estate through multiple generations. And if you don't do that, you're probably going to be one of the poor class and you're going to be screwed.
What's interesting though is a lot of people, and I just had a meeting with someone last week where the parents pass away, they own the house for 40 years and there's quite a few siblings involved.
Yeah.
They all want to sell the house. They want to cash out. I see it happen time and time again. None of them want to.
Because they have to divide it. But think about that. It's gonna go the other way. We're starting to see mostly one child households, which is a real problem.
Actually, very interesting point. You're right.
Right. So we're at 1.33. I saw another report on this morning. 1.33 children per woman in Canada right now. And that R value, just like, again, that nasty virus, that R value is not good for growth. So people aren't having enough children because they're, and I hate this excuse. Stop making the excuse that your housing prices are the reason you don't have children. You're a whiny brat. You're supposed to raise poor kids and they're supposed to get some freaking character because they were poor. So figure it out. But I mean, if you're rich, treat your kids like you're poor. Okay. And they can figure it out too afterwards.
Oh my God. I just got chills. All right. Keep going.
Yeah, man. Stop taking your kid to hockey practice 6 days a week. Your kid doesn't need hockey practice 6 days a week unless they are in the CHL. Okay. Then they can have 6 days a week. Otherwise,
how are you going to get to the CHL unless you practice 6 days a week?
It's amazing to me the people that will bitch about their house prices and then they think their kid's going to make. Do you know, I went to high school with 4 kids in my class that played 1 game in the NHL. 4 kids. And then I don't know what they're doing now. And I just think about sure, maybe, but that's like playing the lottery every week, hoping that you're going to win, as opposed to taking that money, put it down in your mortgage, let your kid live their life. But if they show promise, great. Trying to wish them into an NHL position so you can win the lottery somehow. I don't know. It's all silly. It's all
it's been
ridiculous. Have kids. Have more children.
Kind of cool.
Have another kid.
Yeah, maybe. So, what's been kind of cool about this career is that you get to meet a lot of people from across Canada. And I've actually met quite a few like ex-NHL people get into real estate sales, right? Whether it's in the States or here. And not just people that play a game, but people that have like careers, right? And then they come do this next. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Should we get to actually some of these stories? I have one for you. I want to know your thoughts, because we have not talked about it yet on this GST rental thing, because I have thoughts and I want to know yours first.
Okay. My thoughts are that it is a good thing. Okay. Let's not be negative. If this makes these companies build these buildings faster because they don't have to pay the GST and it costs them less to do it, then this is a good thing for housing Canadians. So that is the first thing I'll say. The second thing I'll say, and this is just a Toronto statement because I'll know what's going on with the purpose-built rentals across Canada. I just know what's going on in Toronto. They are A-class, nice buildings that cost a lot of money to live in so far. Okay, these are the ones that are being built by the private developers, not by the government. Okay, they're expensive to live in. They are great. They have beautiful amenities. They are well-run buildings that if you're a renter, these are probably the buildings that you're going to want to rent in anyways, right? Mm-hmm. That is the second thing. Now, the third thing that I will say is that this is a conversation we've had a lot, and you brought this up with the housing minister, is like our definition for helping people get into housing is helping people get into home ownership, because it is, I mean, listen, you can go whatever way direction you want, negative, positive, whatever. You look at the history of Canada, owning a home typically is better than renting. That's 100%. Like not a crazy statement to make, right? Long term. So we are building these purpose-built rentals now at a much more rapid pace, which is good because we didn't have these type of buildings since like the 80s. Like that's when they were building them in Toronto. Now they're finally coming back. So we will help more Canadians, and hopefully it should put pressure on pricing because there's more of them. Mm-hmm. But what's it doing? It's going to help Canadians rent. Yeah. And Steve is Mr. Anti-rent. So I already feel like I know how you feel about it.
It's going to help promote a socialist society, which is fine. We're Canadian, so we're part of a socialist society, right? Like I'm on board with some of it. I don't think we should be telling people it's a good idea to rent, because when their rent comes due and your CPP disappears, you're going to be in trouble when you're like, the goal needs to be owning a home by retirement, right? Like out free and clear by retirement.
Paid out. Yep. Okay.
Paid out. Your rest of your life's easy, no matter what that home is. But here's my thought. And it is, okay, so a lot of people thought that this is on investment condos. It is not. It is purpose-built rentals. So stop though and think about that. So if I am a developer, or I am a REIT and I want to develop my own whatever and properties to rent out for profit. Okay. I take on all the risk and everything of building a building, of which is rent controlled, not rent controlled here, and we're all rent controlled here.
We're not here.
And then after I build the building for my own use, and I'm not selling that building, on its end value, I have to pay the government GST.
Yeah.
So right? So that's what you have to do. So you've just made your own thing, and the government has to take 5% off the value of which you propose it to be at the end of building it, of which you didn't sell it. It's a sales tax on not a sold item.
Well,
why the hell was it there in the first place?
Because, Steve, why not?
Because
let's just tax everything. Because you know why.
Hey, which leads me to my next one. No, you're not getting off the hook on this.
No, I got some breaking news. No, keep going. Then we'll get to it. It's not. You can go first.
It's not that breaking.
Well,
what about the groceries? I don't know how housing and GST and groceries got lumped in the same thing.
Can we bring in employment for a second? So my wife knows that we're recording right now, and she's in the HR world. And when my phone goes on Do Not Disturb, the only texts that will come in are from her that I can actually see. So I was like, okay, weird. There's a message. I hope just making sure everything was okay with the kid. So she said, employment in Toronto increased 2.6% from August 22 to August 23, and the labor force increased 3.3%. Unemployment rose 0.6% year over year to get to 7.1%. So more people employed in Toronto year over year, but the labor force increased more than the jobs increased.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're flooding people in.
Yeah.
So I saw something that said, 5.9% nationally.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what we need, right? We need more unemployment. The only problem is they're bringing in more people without jobs. It's not like the people are currently losing their jobs. So then what? I don't know. I saw another report that says that we saw 2.7%, 2.9% increase in population in the last year. If this keeps up, Canada will double by like 2048.
Yeah, it's like we just hit 40 million, and now we're like almost at 41. Like
25 years, we'll be at 80 million.
Sheesh.
Right? If we keep up, and that's obviously not sustainable.
Think so. No.
Right? So groceries.
Okay.
Tom Storey.
I hate going to the grocery store long before the prices were ridiculous. I hate everything about it. But what I will say is I think it was good that JT publicly called them out. I don't know if that's going to do anything. I think he should have done this I know. But it is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The cost of stuff, the cost of everything. Mm-hmm. I'm on board with everyone saying I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that as a Canadian, unless I'm going to grow my stuff in my own garden, they are all owned by the same two people. So I'm not
8 people, but
you get what I'm trying to say, right? Mm-hmm. It's a monopoly on buying food. What do we do? What can we do as a consumer?
What was the grocery industry gross sales last year in Canada?
I have no idea. $1 trillion? What's the number?
$100 billion.
$100 billion. Okay, fine.
Right. What was the profit for the grocery companies?
30 bill?
3.5 billion.
Oh, I was way off. Okay.
You were running a good business. That's why you were looking for
in my mind, I was like 30% profitability. Okay.
The profit margin on groceries in Canada is 3.5%.
Okay.
That is the worst business model of anything ever. If you ran a business and you made 3.5%, you would get out of that business right now.
Yeah, agreed. But on that scale, it makes a lot of sense.
It's just scale is scale for a reason. Your profit margins suck. You can go south very, very quickly. So trust me, I worked in an industry where Save On Foods, Jim Pattison was one of our main sources of income, and the way those employees were treated, I didn't like. I actually left the industry as a result of it. I didn't like it. But there's not a massive profit margin that everybody thinks there is. So here is the solution from our fearless leader. The solution is, if you don't come around and make groceries more affordable, what we're going to do is tax you heavier. So our response to you having unaffordable groceries is to make the groceries more unaffordable. What kind of morons do we have running this country? So here, why do you think those things are also expensive? Is it Jagmeet's ridiculous claim of greedflation, which is a hack joke on just inflation, which is way funnier? Is it that? Or is it that your stupid carbon tax is being charged on the farmers to do their greenhouses, being charged on the farmers to run their tractors, being charged on the farmers to fuel everything, being charged to get the workers to work, so you have to pay the workers more, being charged to transporting those goods to the processing facilities. Those processing facilities need heat and cool, and then they need to be shipped to the stores. The stores need heat and cool. All of that is now taxed 150 friggin' times at $61 per liter, or 61 cents, sorry, per liter. And it's tax that is causing the issue. And our solution to tax causing the issue is
tax them more.
More tax. You're an idiot if you believe that carbon taxing is good for anyone. You know,
what's the argument? Is the argument like short term it will make things more expensive, but long term it will be good for everybody? That's the other side?
The argument is we need to figure out climate change.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right? Yeah. And so, cool. Should we make everyone poor to figure out climate change? Probably not.
Not when you put it like that, no.
Right? But that's what we're doing. I can afford a tank of gas. You can afford a tank of gas. I've seen the car you drive. You're doing fine. The person trying to get to the grocery store or buy those groceries that isn't doing fine is getting screwed. And that's where our country is going wrong. Right? We're going to now have the Albertans pull out of CPP. Like, come on, guys. What is going on? It's just all crumbling because we've got a moron who's putting that agenda of climate craziness ahead of people. And I'm on team people, man. We're going to figure out team people human. Are going to do a heck. Yeah. We're going to do just fine. Stop scaring people into thinking that they, for some reason, I bought my flight out to come see you shortly. Mm-hmm. And there was, would you like to contribute $95 to offset your climate footprint for your trip to Toronto?
Did it really say that? Really?
Yes. Yes. If you think I'm spending an extra $100 so I feel better about my trip to Toronto, of which how much of that is going towards climate change, whatever, carbon capture, go beat it. Everything is all on that. It's junk. If we really wanted to, I'm really on a rant here, Tom, I'm sorry. If we wanted to fix this whole world, what we do is we do all of the world's production of oil here in Canada, and we put these dictators out of power, and we run a proper, good, cleaner, that's the part I think is funny, cleaner, system with more ethical treatment of employees, right? Do you think those guys pulling oil out of the ground in Saudi Arabia are doing it, how's their work standards doing? We want to help all these people. Let's fix this. Stop taxing this stuff. Start doing it here, and then be a world leader and stop being a freaking tax yourself to death people. Anyway, that's my rant. I apologize, Tom.
No, that was good. That was like, I just imagined you wearing a cowboy hat doing that at a podium in Alberta somewhere and everyone cheering. It would have been, oh my God.
It's just, you can't, I mean, I'm not saying, yeah, I do think there's a lot of room for growth, but here, so I don't know if you know this, Tom, you probably don't know this. Why would you know this? Through Surrey comes the coal car. The coal train comes through Surrey and it goes out to Deltaport.
Yep.
From, I'm going to say Saskatchewan, Alberta, wherever they mine coal. I have no idea. That all gets shipped to China. China burns coal for their electricity. So we're so green that we ship all of our coal to China to get burned rather than, I don't know, supply them with LNG. But what are you going to do? You're dummies. And then we're going to tax our LNG.
One thing you had mentioned there, just a segue here, was that, the people that kind of have a decent income still, have some good savings, are doing okay. They can afford the groceries. They can afford to fill up their car, but it's the people at the bottom. We talked about this on the Jazz episode. Like, if you're at the bottom of the mountain, when the mountain crumbles, you're getting it the worst, right? Because you're standing at the bottom of it. This is going completely different direction here. Okay. So I was just in the States, and a lot of the conversation in the real estate industry there was class action lawsuits against some of the biggest companies regarding buyer agency.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So to simply
we have another hour and a half.
Yeah. To simply break this down, typically in North America, this is really just a North American thing. We have a centralized MLS system in which realtors cooperate with each other. Okay. So when you hire someone, you have an exclusive agreement with the agent that's helping you sell your property. Right. And then most of the time, not always, but most of the time, another realtor who's not the one representing you is the one that brings the buyer, and those realtors cooperate. And the way that the fee is split up in whichever fee model in which you choose to work with is that part of it goes this way and part of it goes this way. Right. And these class action lawsuits happening in the States, a few of the big companies have actually settled. Now, we don't know what they settled for because it's not
offered to settle.
Offered? Is it offered? I thought they settled. I thought Remax settled.
They did.
And
maybe they did.
I think,
but I saw offered to settle.
I think two of them settled.
Do you know why they were offering to settle? Because the lawsuit was $45 billion.
Because it was a made up number, right? But but now that a few big ones over there settled, there was a similar one that was brought against CREA, TREB, 7 major Canadian real estate brokerages, and they accused of price fixing to boost realtor commissions. That's a trading class.
Read the tweet, Tom, because
okay, fine. But I want to kind of segue this to where it's going. Federal court clears way for a class action lawsuit against CREA, TREB, and 7 major Canadian brokerages accused of price fixing to boost realtor commissions. More to come.
Do you need insurance? The answer to that question is obviously yes, of course you do. Whether you are a tenant, landlord, or homeowner, you need to insure your property and belongings. And when I insure my investment property, personally, I choose Square One. Square One is affordable online insurance for everyone. If you apply for your Square One insurance policy using the link in the description of the show notes, listeners of the Tom Storey Show can receive $20 off right now, simply by going to squareone.ca/the Tom Storey Show. Square One is no joke. I personally use Square One for my landlord policy on my investment condo. I picked Square One because they were easier to work with than other insurance companies. And when I had an issue with my previous policy coverage in relation to my Stratas coverage, Square One was the insurance company that came up with a solution for my insurance problem at an affordable rate. Online quotes take less than 5 minutes with Square One. Get your home insurance quote today at squareone.ca/the Tom Storey Show and save $20.
You want to take over here, Steve?
Comment now or hold it? You want me to
go for it. Go for it.
So I read the lawsuit. You ever read a lawsuit before?
I actually did go into that article and I didn't read the lawsuit, but I read the notes.
Lawsuit. So the judge has struck the term price fixing because they couldn't prove it. There's no price fixing because you can't, because we have open, they could not prove price fixing. They could also not, they used it, not boost, they use increase, I think. They also struck the word increase because they could not prove that they were increasing. So the lawsuit that is allowed to go forward is only allowed to use the word control. They're not allowed to say price fixing
or boost.
They're not allowed to say or increasing.
Okay.
So they're trying to say control. Well, okay. Now I really hope whoever hears this, they're obviously a little suey. They are a little litigation-y. So I don't want them to come after me. But let's be serious here. This is someone looking for a cash in because there was a big thing going on in the States and they've glommed onto it. So here's the thing, though, to properly address this, Tom, and I know we're like 45 minutes into this. To properly address this, you have to go through and explain open listings, exclusive listings, how the MLS came to be, how buyer agency came to be, because up until 1997, there was no such thing as buyer agency. There was listing and selling brokerages, and all of that, and how the compensation flows. You have to understand all of that. And one thing I know about when you go to court is we all have our regulations. However, the judge has no idea what we do.
Right.
So you have to explain everything to the judge. And then, as opposed to coming from a place of context, the judge makes a decision based on the evidence put before him, and that is it. Right? There is no real estate judge. There is a real estate lawyer that will argue a case, but there's no real estate judge. So in that respect, this whole thing is foolish, because what are they angry about? What is it that they feel like is unfair? Because it's the exact same thing that happened in the States.
Well, I think it's the buyer commissions paid by the sellers, and what they were saying didn't end up happening, or maybe it's going this direction. But if you ever watch American television, there's like some lawyer being like, "Have you done this thing in the last 3 years? Yeah. And if you have, make sure to call us." They were saying like, "Listen, don't be surprised in the States if you see billboards that say, 'Have you bought a house in the last 5 years?' Yeah. If so, join the class action lawsuit."
Yeah. It's people hunting money.
This is
it's crazy to me though, because they're saying like the buyer's agent brokerage fee
it's so clear
is outlined in the listing agreement. Like, so what they're saying is we felt like we were pressured into having to pay this, right?
You have to pay anything.
So, but let's go back. I guess we have to.
You got to pay $1. You got to pay $1 in our market.
You have to get into it, and you have to know that like most of the world still operates on open listings. I believe Argentina, Spain, all these areas,
all of Europe operate on.
So the way most of the world goes is if you are selling a property, you as the seller hire every agent you can find to sell your property for you. You sign a listing with like 17 dudes or ladies, and then whoever brings you the buyer is the one that gets paid. It's called an open listing, right? So there is no buyer agent. I guess there is only dual agency in many of those places.
Yeah, you're representing both sides.
Then we morphed and said, okay, well, if I'm going to put in all this marketing to get your home sold, we're going to go to exclusive listings. You're going to give me exclusive right to sell your property. Here's my fee. At the time here in BC, it was 7%. There, it's been 5-6% wherever. It's much smaller here now in BC. But that was an exclusive listing. So now I have the right to sell your property. I'm the only one that has the right, because I'm going to put in all these marketing dollars. So, but I don't have all of the buyers, because there's 79 million thousand other people in Toronto that are buyer's agents, right? So what are the chances I'm going to have the buyer? So you as the other agent would bring your buyer, except when that started, there was the listing agent and then there was the selling agent, both of which the buyer's agent at that time actually legally worked for the seller. That's how it started.
Right.
So you would say, okay, I will, because, and the reasoning for that is if somebody's getting sued in the transaction, it's the seller, not the buyer. The buyer's never getting sued in the transaction, only the seller is. So all the liability went there. So it used to be when it was buyer beware, both agents would be working for the seller.
The seller, yeah.
Then we realized that, oh wait, that other agent actually isn't working on behalf of the seller at all, and they're actually working on behalf of the buyer. So in 1997, I believe it was Brian Taylor here in BC literally wrote the book on buyer agency. So up until 1997, you did not, if you were a client, you were on your own buying a property. That's why it got originally compensated through the seller though, because we charged you 7%. And then when we had to start splitting it, we still charged you 7%. And then the other guy the other portion went to that guy. Yeah. Right. I wish it was half, Tom. I'm not.
Well, no, I can't even say that. That's not true. It depends on the market that you're in, how it's split up.
Most commonly.
So
then we started seeing things like, well, it's not fair. And we don't want people to be able to double end and cut commissions and do all these things. We want everybody to have equal representation. So they brought in buyer agency. Now they have no dual agency here in my market. I know it's still possible where you are.
But rarely happens anyways.
In Alberta, I think you have... Sorry?
It rarely happens here because there's so many realtors.
Yeah, well, that would make sense. And then I think in Alberta, it's mandatory to have a buyer agent. So like you have to buy a property. So there's all these, and those are all brought in for buyer protections. And now this seller in particular, the one guy suing and now this class action, is saying, I don't feel like I should have had to pay for the buyer's agent after I've done it.
Right.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah, of course.
So then
Which,
what?
by the way,
What
he didn't have to
He didn't
offer.
have to if he didn't want to.
You don't have to offer.
But he felt like he had to pressure it. So the argument is that, well, this is the way the system works, and I don't like the system.
Sure.
Hey, you're not going to get an argument from me.
Yeah.
How about less regulation, guys? How about less regulation? No, that's not the way it works, man. I got to get elected. We need more regulation.
If you don't like the system, why don't you sell your house on your own? And you're not paying any commissions to anybody.
Yeah, yes.
I don't get it. Like, you don't have to. There's no rule. You have to use a real estate agent to sell your house.
And that's why they had to strike the price fixing thing. They couldn't say price fixing because they couldn't prove that there wasn't other commission models of which could be higher. Like, I offer 3 different commission models in my team, right? So if they ever came to me and said you're price fixing, I would say, well, why do I have 3 different? I have clients picking different commission models all the time.
Yeah.
So it in my estimation is all fairly ridiculous. But what is the downside? So let's say, for instance, we decide, what happens, Tom, if the sellers now only pay their agent there in your market probably 2.5% on average, 2 to 2.5%, maybe 1.5% to 2.5%, up to 3%. And then in my market, only a portion of whatever it is. Let's say it's 1.5%. So now, what happens? I'm happy. I saved this much money because I didn't have to pay it. How does that go?
Well, I mean, if you're trying to take out buyer agency altogether, you just say it doesn't exist anymore?
No. We have to have buyer agency. It's legally mandated.
Right now it is.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
But what
happens though? Who if you have an agent?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, no, I mean, technically it's not legally mandated here. You could still represent yourself.
Yeah.
So the buyer either has to pay their own agent directly out of pocket,
which rarely ever happens, but yes.
Or they have to be unrepresented.
Yep.
Okay. So the feature of the whole system is you can get a first-time buyer who doesn't have another X amount of dollars to shell out to his agent. You can get it put into the deal. It's a cost that goes to the seller because transfer tax goes to the buyer. I think transfer tax should maybe be split 50-50 then too. Because, I mean, you're transferring title.
But the argument could also be made, like, listen, the buyer's actually paying the commissions because it's in the price of the property, right?
Of course, yeah. It's stupid. They should actually be compensating the buyers. But let's go and say, okay, we are going to do this. This guy wins the lawsuit. We're going to extinguish buyer agency if it's paid for by the seller.
Sure. So this took me back to 10, 15 minutes ago. Who do you think is going to be impacted the most? The people that want to be represented by someone that's really good at their job are probably going to pay. Oh my God, I can't believe my phone rang after everything I just said. It's on Do Not Disturb.
Maybe it's someone super important.
No, it wasn't. If Steve was calling me. If this happens, the people that can afford to pay for the really good real estate agent, if they're going to have to pay them directly now and it's not included in the price through the seller, they're going to still do that if they want high quality service. It's going to be the people at the lower budgets, lower price points that can't afford it because they have just what they can put down that won't get the representation. And then they're going to be negotiating for themselves against a professional who's signed a contract to represent the seller. And they're going to get taken, their lunch is going to get taken from them. And it's not because the seller agent's a bad person. It's because they are literally doing their job for the contract they signed for the seller. That's what's going to happen. Is that what we wanted? Is that better?
Yeah. So should this go ahead, we are going to go back to the 1950s or we're going to go to a system which is regarded as a terrible system, all through Europe and all that sort of stuff. Like they do this in Australia, right? In Australia, most of the time there's no buyer agency.
Yeah.
It's you go direct to the guy, you do all your own research, they don't know you jack. Their job is to negotiate against you, but you go direct. So it's going to actually it's going to do 2 things. One, the affluent people who understand the benefit of representation and can afford to pay for it will still get it.
Yep.
And then the first-time buyers or people that can't afford to represent themselves, can't afford representation, are going to get screwed. And what will this do if this lawsuit goes ahead? It will put more real estate at a cheaper price into the hands of the richer people, and it will screw the little guy, because our system, with its flaws, is way better than the alternative. And I really hope the judge hearing this case listens to my stupid opinion on this, because it is such a bad move. Now, what do I think is really happening? Somebody's trying to get a paycheck. Somebody's trying to get a little settlement.
You're just describing life. Somebody's trying to get paid.
So it's stupid. So what it screams to me is somebody who's complaining about the system now, and they don't understand why the system is in place and how it got here in the first place and how generally it helps protect people. And in the event that this happens, all of the buyer protection legislation would need to be stricken. It all needs to come out.
Probably be bad for buyers. Well, I mean, this only has legs now because of the settlements that happened with the states.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This lawsuit started in 2019. And then it's already, like, I read the whole thing. The brokerages themselves, the franchisees, have all been released. They're like, this has nothing to do with you. And then in the States, NAR has said, keep coming at me, bro. Like, NAR we are not backing down. This system is designed to help everyone get in and out of properties in the best, easiest, most fair way possible. Because there's the other side that gets lost. The fairness. Buyer agency's gone. The fairness, cooperation, the MLS system dissolves
without cooperation.
Cooperation and fairness is gone. Right? It is gone. Fairness is. Do you sell exclusive? Every once in a while, we sell exclusive, and rarely. I love an exclusive contract. So I love exclusive contracts, and I know CREA's removing them, which I'm not a fan of.
Well, not removing them, just putting more restrictions on how you can market them.
Sure. Let's call it that.
That's what it is.
So they can get a bigger piece of the pie.
Oh, so Steve.
The reason I love exclusive listings is you don't actually have to cooperate with anyone, because the MLS is for cooperation. Exclusive listings are for exclusivity.
And by the way, just quickly, earlier when you were talking about the different types of listings, open listings, exclusive listings, he wasn't talking about this type of exclusive listing. It was exclusive to the one agent. Now you're talking about
the same thing.
Technically, but for people listening, like, an exclusive listing can still be on MLS if it's just with that one person because it's exclusive to them, but it's not an exclusive listing in the terminology.
No, exclusive listing is not on MLS.
That's what I'm saying.
MLS listings on MLS. Yeah. Am I confused here? It's the exact same listing agreement. Technically, it's just not.
It just doesn't go in MLS. Yes,
it's not used in the same ways as it used to be used. But I mean, exclusives are great if you have things like this is why the entire commercial business is run on exclusive. Yeah, because then you don't have to play nice with anybody you don't want to, and that's okay in the business world, and it's not okay in the citizen world. So that's why we have MLS, you dummy. So take your lawsuit and stink it up.
Here's how I want to wrap this up. You know what else isn't fair?
I don't want to wrap it up. I want to keep going. We're at an hour. If you want. I'll be here all day. We should do a marathon. Jazz was talking about like a 5-hour thing.
He did a 5-hour marathon, and
I love it.
Had like 300 people on it. So, and I was talking to someone else, but I was like, oh, did he it wasn't him the entire time, was it? And they're like, no, it was. Like, he was interviewing people and stuff, but
I'm going to assume Jazz can keep going for 5 hours.
Yeah, he can probably talk for a while. What else is not fair, Stephen, is the mortgage rates in Canada, especially if you have a fixed rate coming up for renewal. I happen to be in that boat. Okay. So I've found a solution for myself, a bit of a solution. Now, this is not an across the board solution. You know, our business has done well the last little while, so I have some savings. So my solution is
buy down.
I'm doing a lump sum. Well, I'm doing a lump sum payment on renewal, and that's gonna make a dent in what my mortgage amount is. There's still a big mortgage there, but it's going to make a dent, and I can afford to do it. So I'm going to do it instead of keeping that money elsewhere, because it'd be nice to see it going up at 5% in the GICs, or put it into the market. I'm just going to go screw it. You know what? Just going to put it in my house. Okay. Makes me feel better, because my rate is about to go from 5 to wherever things land in the next little while. And I'm likely taking a 3-year fixed. That's the path I'm going to take. I'm waiting to get
the highest rate possible right now.
Well, we'll find out. Like I'm waiting to get the email back. It's probably in my inbox right now as we're recording this.
I'm thinking like you should actually probably just stick to the variable. But I like the idea of a pay down and then just sticking with variable.
So let's see what they get back to me at. I'll tell you offline, and then we can go down the different paths. But yeah, I'm going to do a pay down, and I'm just going to get ahead of it and go, you know what? My rates are going up, which means my monthlies are going to go up. Why don't I just pay a chunk down if I can afford to do so? And probably my payment's going to be the same with the difference in the rates. Yeah, but at least I know the mortgage amount is shrinking, and that will make me feel better and sleep better at night. So
you want some secret time that I know now that we're an hour in and I know all the idiots are gone, and now that's just the people that actually value my stupid opinions are here. Here's some secret time for renewal, because I'm looking into renewal right now. Okay. And it appears through my insider knowledge and research that if you stay with the same institution,
which I am,
because there is now no broker payout involved. So for instance, I use an independent broker, so I don't go back to my same guy. There's no renewal fee, no nothing, because usually that's only on new customers, right?
Yep.
When you do that, given, again, it depends on what the market's doing, the amount that they can discount your mortgage percentage wise is somewhere between 0.35% and just over 1%.
Okay.
And up to about 1.5, but I don't think anybody's going to give you that discount.
That would be huge.
So you should be able to easily, if you don't transfer your mortgage, renegotiate about 0.35% off of your rate. So whatever, you can get a 6.35 down to 6 or whatever. Here's the dig though. You're probably going to have to prove that you can go somewhere else and qualify somewhere else, that you might actually move your mortgage. But if you do, you should be able to get, let's call it 0.5%. If you just deal now with I actually have to deal, I'm with Manulife, so I actually have to deal me and Manulife, no broker involved.
Right.
And then those are the kind of targets. So like Manulife's, I think, are like 6.6% or something right now, but I should be able to get that down to something
for
much
a 5-year
more
fixed.
Whatever they happen to be. I mean, that is probably 5-year fixed. It really also depends on the term of the mortgage, because what they think, well, what would we pay a broker to bring us this mortgage if we lost it right now? So that's your wiggle room in your mortgage refinance, but you have to do it on your own. And let me tell you, I don't get it and I don't understand it, and I got to do my best. Luckily, one of my the guy that got me the mortgage in the first place is totally okay to look over the paperwork and be like, hey, this is right or this is wrong or whatever, right?
Yeah. Okay, you know what? If we're gonna go long here, let's just do it. I got long. 2 other things I wanna touch on here.
Bonus time. We're going into the bonus rounds. We're going into overtime. These are the championship rounds of the Tom Storey Show. Oh, speaking of which, Tom, I took my first BJJ class yesterday.
Nice. And did you get pinned down?
I understand that I know nothing. And I also understand that I am 43 years old.
You tell TK?
I have not told TK.
Who are you up against?
I was so lucky. So the place where I took this first class is very nice. Like they're not a super, I don't think, competitive place. Like they're very welcoming. And I was so lucky. I think the guy's name was Mike. He came over to me. He's like, first class. Yeah. And he's a blue belt. So he's a step ahead. So he's probably 3-4 years in. And he was like, you're with me. So nice. I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God. Because there's me and another guy who are like first class. And it was like, oh,
what are you guys going to do?
We're just going to like, what? So anyway, it was super awesome. I'm stoked about it. My wife might be mad that I start going 3 days a week, but we'll see.
3 days a week. Look at you.
I can't do 3 days a week. I will say I did this experiment. I weighed myself before and after, and I lost 2.5 pounds of sweat.
Because Mike was just sitting on you for 2 hours. Is that?
Yeah, he was sitting on me, and then I took turns sitting on him, and it was fun. So.
Okay,
but it is intro. Anyway,
back on track here for a second. Yeah. Canada's emergency business account, CEBA, $60,000 government loans are coming due January 18th, 2024. Is everyone going to pay them back on time?
Not a chance. Everybody that could pay them back has already paid them back.
How many people don't know that that's the deadline and they're about to find out and have no idea and have spent all that money?
They're dummies if they don't know. But I mean, what would have been the effective way to do that? Here's where I feel bad is for the people that were mandated to shut their businesses.
Yeah, they had no choice. They had to take this at the time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it should have been offered to any business that could actually keep their doors open. That was.
But remember, going back at that moment, it was there's no red tape on anything. Boom, 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 which put us in this situation. But
I mean, I have a very personal opinion of I took not a penny of anything ever, and I don't really freaking care. I took responsibility for myself, and I made it work. I will feel bad for companies that took it and then had to basically fail out or struggle this whole time. Like I said, the restaurants and stuff, that's terrible. They've extended it. They've extended it again. And now they've extended it again. And I'm sure there's going to be more extensions. I would assume if you're in this position, you would probably phone the CRA and you better start talking to them and just not leave it. Otherwise, you're going to start getting smashed with penalties, right? How do you feel about it?
There we go. It's popped up again. What's going on there? How do I feel about it? I early on, when you had to have had an employee, you couldn't just get it if you were self-employed without an employee. Like the early days of it, I did take the $40,000 one, where $30,000 or $10,000 was forgivable, but $30,000 you had to pay back. And I used it during those early months to pay my assistant because there was, remember, like going back to March, it was like probably no income's coming in here for 5 months, which changed in about a month after that. Yeah. But then you already had it and it was paying out of that. I paid mine back already. It's done. So whatever. But I will say, after things got back to normal for a little bit, I did have moments where I went to my bank account. I was like, what's this $40,000 on my credit? I was like, oh, that thing. So I messaged my accountant. I was like, here's how you can pay it off right now. But my opinion is that there will be lots of people that kind of forgot about this, thought it was maybe a longer payment period, kind of just took it because they were told they should take it, even if they maybe didn't need it, but then spent it. And I'm not sure with the 60,000, what you didn't have to.
You don't have to pay back 20.
Is it 20? Okay, so
think about how stupid that is. Handing out $20,000 per company. But don't worry, interest rates are at record lows. They're going to be here for a long, long time. The problem I have with a lot of it is like we're now in the time period where we expect that interest rates would have started going up and where we knew all this stuff was going to have to be paid back. So anybody that's in this position now that doesn't understand that the money was going to go back, there's probably a little bit of naivety on their end. The people that are getting smashed, though, are the people that didn't qualify for CERB, took CERB, and now are getting clawed back. Everybody that qualified technically didn't do the clawback, but they were just handing them out so quickly. I knew somebody that didn't know if they qualified or not, so they claimed it. And then when they realized within 9 months that they didn't qualify, they just paid it right back. Right. Yeah. I mean, if I was smart, what I would have done? I would have taken the money. I would have taken the $60,000. I would have put 20 in my pocket, put the other in the savings account until it was time to pay it back, and then pay it back. But I don't think that was the best.
But then there's an argument to be made that if you did that $20,000 more you have in your account now, well, because they gave out all that money, your life is much more than $20,000 more expensive.
Way more.
You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm actually further and further and further behind. But it was, we got to stop. We got to stop it with the handouts. We got to stop it with the taxation. We got to tell people to figure it out, man. Figure it out. Do it on your own. Why do you think it is that Alberta, the place with the least amount of restrictions, has the cheapest homes? And like, guys, it's less restrictions. Everything off is better when people decide that they can take care of themselves instead of the government taking care of you, because we will not leave you behind. We are here for Canadians. That's my new political voice.
That's pretty good. All right, let's wrap this thing up. Steve is going to be coming to Toronto in very soon, actually. Very soon.
Sold out?
What's that?
That's sold out?
It will be sold out. There's 3 tickets left.
Okay.
But so anyways, we're doing an event. So here's the thing. Grumpy Steve always says that the barrier to entry for the real estate industry is not high enough.
Never.
And now that the market is more difficult, they're going to be people.
I got into it.
yeah, we're here. So Exhibit A. But and you know, we are very much loyal to Richard Robbins and everything he does, and he's been amazing. And I would highly recommend any real estate agent in Canada look at their company for coaching. And the events are amazing. But I had this opportunity to put on this event in Toronto, and because we want to raise the bar, and we're trying to put people in a room that are coming to it from a place of experience, from actual activeness in the market. I don't care if you have 20,000 Instagram followers, if you're not doing any real estate. What I care about is that there are people that are helping a lot of other people and are really good at their jobs. And if I can get other people in a room that are going to the speakers will uplift the crowd and show them like, hey guys, like, you know, you can run a profitable business and be a really good person and do it ethically and you get where I'm going with this. Nice. So we're doing a little event, and it's almost sold out. We got people flying in from the States. We got some of probably the biggest Toronto real estate agent in terms of production. Like, we got some absolute killers, and I'm pretty pumped about this. Other than Steve's coming, so I'm gonna have to see him in person. But
yeah, we'll figure it out. Hopefully, we can do some in-persons recordings. Maybe. I'm in and out of there. I got my flight for $387 return.
On what airline? Swoosh?
Air Canada.
Really?
Yeah, I will for sure.
You're not checking a bag. You're not checking a bag.
That's with no bag checked. I mean, I'm going to be there for 48 hours. So what does that matter, right?
No, I agree.
I'm going to have one change underwear, and you're going to have to put up with me in the same pair of pants, and it'll be fun. But it's airfare coming down. Planning a trip too. Oh, secret trip.
You're planning a secret trip?
I'm going to be in Toronto twice in the next 2 months, and then we're planning like a vacation. Like, I'm going to put my kids on a plane. So
I'll believe it when I see it.
As long as they don't hear this, Steve, it's a secret.
I get people texting me about our show saying, "Can you tell Steve stop being an idiot and just book a vacation?" No. All he does is talk about this potential vacation and whines about the prices and never pulls the trigger.
If you expect me to stop being an idiot, you're going to have to wait at least another 43 years, because the previous 43 have been pretty idiotic. So
all right. Apologize. We've gone way too long. That was fun. Thank you everyone for watching on YouTube. If you've made it this long, really, really, we do appreciate it. Thank you for being here. If you haven't already, make sure to like this episode, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on the audio platforms, if you have any time today, just go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. We'd really appreciate it. Steve, final words of wisdom?
I don't think they want to hear me anymore. Have a great weekend, everybody. Have a great Sunday.
Bye.
Bye.